We find ourselves on a cozy island where water powers machines and machines power greed.
I don't suppose you can grab me this.
You can grab my nuts, old man. Can't you see I'm busy? Go Bessie, go Bessie, go Bessie, Bessie, Bessie.
Join me as I set out to become the wealthiest Hydroneer this island's ever seen, while collecting every fishing rod, building all tiers of mining machines, and uncovering the mystery of old relics. All that within 100 days. Hey, my lovelies, I am your humble ringmaster, Crowmeda, and say it with me now, let the show begin! Here we are, on day one, after making an absolute dashing specimen of a man, we hop on in, and before I knew it, I was standing in a town called Ember Cradle. All I could tell was that there were plenty of shops, that you have to buy your own tools, and also that this game isn't very big on tutorials. The sun was setting quickly and I had no idea what I should be doing, but I did manage to find a brush, so I guess that's a start. While my dumb was busy finding out how to use a pan and brush to get some ore, I found a map. Turns out the island we are on is called Bastion, and it has multiple quarries. This is also where I noticed the item description pop up and found out that I need some dirt to use in a pan and brush, so I'm off to find a shovel. And I did find one at this dude's shop, but apparently, although theft being a crime here doesn't really get you punished, it's just kind of weird, a dude just screams at you. So I went looking around town, where I managed to wander into a cave with an odd ritual spot. Must require some special items on these here pedestals, but we'll be back for this eventually. While I was walking through town, one of the villagers gave me an item requisition, but buddy, I don't even know how to get dirt, let alone gems and gold. Far and wide I searched for the elusive shovel going into day 2, but eventually I circled back to square one, where there was a shovel waiting for me this whole time. My bad, I guess I'm just illegally blind, and this shovel here allowed me to get my first bit of dirt, which washed down with the pan, got us a first bit of gold. Our road to riches has thus begun. It took me quite a long time to find out how to interact with the shops, but all you gotta do is drop your possessions onto the table to get you some coin. This coin netted me a worth of 7, but I need 100 for the starter pickaxe, so I slaved the day away to get some more ores, and I came across some iron eventually. Slowly but surely, the wagon was being filled up, which I carried all the way on over to the market to make some quick buckaroonies. While selling this new haul, I did notice that different pieces of ore go for different prices based on their weight. Later, as the sun was setting, I did find a mysterious glowing shard, which supposedly helps power pressure tanks, so I'll hold on to that as I don't know how rare this is. Another haul later got sold, so we're making that cash money quick, so much so that we went to buy our first pickaxe. We are going places, and those places are the mines. Might as well test it out at the quarry that I have access to. It lets you dig super fast, however, it's super dark down here. So Papa is going to need a light source, and there were a lot of useful tools to start building a base, but again, I'm still broke. So on day 3, I attempted to remedy this issue by grinding out ore to sell. During this grind, I managed to make some interesting finds, being an uncut emerald, very nice, some core stone ore, and a piece of cloutium ore. No idea what I could use these for, but I'm sure together we'll figure that out in time. At sundown, I put my bucket on my wagon and sold all of my golden iron that I got from the day to get myself a standing torch, a grinding wheel, and a construction hammer. And you know, the next morning, as I was transporting my stuff, I noticed my wagon was just overflowing with items, so I think it's time we build that base. I unloaded everything at my selected spot, where the standing torch, ironically, did not want to do the standing part. I guess it'll have to do on the floor for now. I couldn't quite figure out what to do with the hammer though. All I did after that was set down my grinding wheel and turn my uncut emeralds into their pure shiny form. More time was spent gathering ore for funds, during which I found an uncut sapphire. I can tell that this game is going to want me to make a lot of jewelry. The extra cash let me buy the saw, and I figured out that it's not used to cut down trees surprisingly, or used on wood in any way, shape, or form. It's meant for cutting metal bars in half, oddly enough. Stumped on what to do next, I just started to dig a hole in the dirt. I reached solid ground and couldn't dig any further down, so I'm guessing I might need better tools down the line. As the sun was setting again, all I could think of was that I'm going to need to build a rudimentary furnace station for sure, since it'll allow me to make bars. So you know what that means? Sifting through more dirt. Yeah, buddy, I spent all night panning, during which I found out that my emeralds and sapphires had mysteriously disappeared. There's a thief in our midst, I just know it. This grind lasted for the majority of day 5, and I also snatched up an uncut ruby, which I processed and placed at base for safekeeping. Hopefully the thief doesn't get this one too. But you know what feels like a real steal? That'd be the stunning clothing over at Project Orochi. Like y'all, I find most gaming merch comes off so strong that you don't want to wear them in public, but that's where Project Orochi comes in with stylish game-inspired clothes that most perceive as cool streetwear, while gamers can recognize the design's inspiration as this brand blends Japanese art with subtle nods to games, all of which I'm a fan of, like Dark Souls, Sekiro, Elden Ring, and more. Like this piece, looks like traditional Japanese art, but Sekiro players will catch on to this. Also, I binge way too much anime, so I'm drawn to the Jujutsu shirts and Bleach hoodie. But my personal favorite has to be their Elder Scrolls collection. I'm gonna wear these everywhere as I'm proud to sport these. Don't mind me, I'm just buying my clothes for the year. What I find super creative is they're building a community not just on Instagram, but Discord, where you can join giveaways and even find fellow gamers. So check them out today using my link down below, as they offer free shipping in the USA, and you can use code Crowmeda for 10% off your order. And a big thank you to Project Orochi for sponsoring this video. Now, if only I could get such a good deal with my ore, but for now, I just work relentlessly to get enough ores to sell, since the jeweler lady, who we shall call Julie, drives a hard bargain. And I'm really going to need to automate this whole mining operation, because my hands be hurtin'. I'm gonna get carpal tunnel from this for sure. At about noon, I was able to buy every single smithing item at the vendor and began to haul everything back to base. I then got some gold and iron harvested and decided to throw some into the crucible to make some ingots, which I tried to use on this here anvil to craft items as I was sifting through the recipes, and I grasped the concept but couldn't quite figure it out just yet. But that didn't stop me from trying all different combinations going into day 6 until I figured out that I needed to heat up the bars to create stuff. I mean, duh.
Ha ha! Eureka! Ha ha ha! Weaponry is mine!
Not knowing what to do with my new shiny pointy stabby stick, I went on a search for someone to sell it to and stumbled upon a statue in the name of my new scriptwriter.
Raptor? Did you die here? Did you die here?
I guess. My soul is there, trust me.
The stabby stick was sold to Julie, and then I scurried back to base with my coin like the little goblin that I am. After that, I built the biggest piece of jewelry that I could muster with a big ruby on it, and that only gave me 40 Hydroneer coin, which feels like a ripoff. Julie, you're gonna pay for this. Lastly, the only other thing that I could make was an iron axe and an emerald ring. These surely would bring me a better price. On my way up to Julie though, I noticed a giant volcano in the distance. Hopefully we get to explore that sometime soon. With those new acquired funds, I decided to buy a fishing pole and a crab pot, which I hauled on over to the nearest dock, where I struggled to find a deep enough part to put the pot in, so we'll put that on a hold. At least the fishing pole seemed to be working just fine. I did catch a sardine and sold it for a whopping 4H. Not much money in this fishing business, I suppose. I also caught a cod, but couldn't figure out where to sell it to, so I would put a hold on this for now as well. Curiosity got the better of me as I set off on an adventure to kick off day 7, without knowing what awaited me out there. If it was danger, I'd welcome it. I came across a quaint Viking-style village. Although vacant, its stock market had a way better price for weaponry, so we now know where to sell those. I returned back to base, placed my crab pot under my little bridge, and got to work on gathering iron, and ended up crafting one of each iron weapon. I transported them to the Viking village, where I sold them for a grand sum of 46 coins. This dramatically influenced the demand price though, as I had offered all 3 at the same time, seems like. The little bit of money that I did have, I spent on concrete blocks and used them to build a flat surface to put our assembly on. Progression-wise, we do need to save up for some of these larger automated machines that are powered by water pressure. The game is called Hydroneer after all. So against my better judgment, I decided to collect my gold bars and sold them to Julie. This sadly only gave me 70 coins. This lady is going to drive me insane. With that money, I decided to buy some pipes, and thus on day 8, after placing them, we had flowing water. I then made a quick 86 coins, selling iron bars at the local stock market, and then during today's money grind, I managed to find a herring in the crab pot, so I'll be sure to keep track of the different species of fish that we find. After tons of more grinding, I sold a whole bunch of bars and gems for 216 coins, so I was finally able to afford a forged iron harvester and hooked it up to our water pipes. This machine lets me skip the washing and brushing step of the panning. As for the fish caught by the cage so far, we got a cod, a herring, a flying fish, a prawn, and an old stanky boot. At the Fisher Village, I traded a prawn for a slightly better fishing rod, so our side quest to collect them all is going smoothly. As for the remaining fish, I found out I can just sell them to the grocer. It was on day 9 that we put our new piece of machinery to work by shoveling truckloads of dirt into it for processing. During this grind, I ended up making a shard bar, but Julie says it's apparently worth jack shit, so I'll hold on to it for myself. It must be useful if I can't sell it. I then continued to sift through pan after pan after pan after pan of dirt, and I did get more efficient at it though, digging on the other side of the river and using a block to get up to feed the machine. By sundown, I had an absolutely massive pile of ore and started to make a chunky gold ingot and a thick iron bar. These two items were worth a whopping 381 coins. Julie, you are finally speaking my language. With that coin, I was able to buy the remaining tubing and decided to start rerouting my system back at base. And things seem to be looking well as I figured out I can put the shard bar into the pressure tube and had enough room for another machine. Efficiency was slowly catching on day 10 as we built a platform with a bucket to catch our ores. 50% of the time, it works 100% of the time. For the majority of the day, I repeated the same money-making system as the day prior, and with another massive amount of cash, I managed to buy and set a forged iron drill down. It just pumps out dirt like there's no tomorrow. I mean, just look at it go. I can't even keep up with it, and this is only tier 1. The remainder of the evening was spent perfecting this section of our system, and I quickly came to realize, since it's spitting out dirt chunks, we need to route it in a way that would allow the chunks to fall into the top of the harvester. And although my contraption that I whipped up should have worked, it did not, likely because this drill isn't meant to drill air. Day 11 was, well, not the most thrilling chapter in our epic saga. Armed with my very limited brain power, I decided it was time for a much-needed overhaul. I made a lot of purchases for this project, some wise, others questionable. Progress was happening, but we're not quite there yet. Still, somewhere deep in the rusty gears of my mind, there was a spark, a tiny flicker of an idea. Let's see where this takes us.
Oh, it works! It works! Suck it! I knew I had a good idea.
Yes, my lovelies, automation has been achieved. We have beaten the game. Not really, but you get the point. You know, hey, the pipes were flowing, the machines are humming, and things are kind of working. Now comes the tricky part though, figuring out how to catch all of these shiny little nuggets and sort them into neat little piles. After some intense staring at the mess that I created, I decided it was time to invest in a hand sorter, because clearly my hands alone aren't cutting it. Fortunately, funding isn't an issue anymore, thanks to the mountain of nuggets that we've stockpiled from all of our totally scientific testing. On day 13, we integrated the hand sorter and powered it up with good old-fashioned water. Sure, it might not be the approved method, but hey, it's working wonders for easy collection. Our contraption is up and running, and it's already making us richer than we ever dreamed of. And naturally, I took that as a cue to expand the hole for more building. After all, we need our loot properly sorted. Once we forged the mother of all bars, construction raged on through the night like there was no tomorrow.
Damn, son, where'd you find this? Holy moly.
I got the goods if you got the cash.
You better have a lot of goods, my boy, because I got a lot of cash.
What can I say? Rerouting everything and using my brain, for once, turned out to be a solid plan. We were basking in eureka moments until we noticed some wear and tear on the drill. Turns out even the best contraptions need a little TLC now and then. So it was time to cough up a few more nuggets for repairs before diving back in. So the next day, I bought myself a spanner and got everything back in working order. While I'm gathering funds for more building projects, I just have to say, this game is incredibly satisfying. Other games might give you a quick rush from high value drops, but here, it's all about the pride of seeing what you've built come to life. I picked up another sorter and started installing this one too, but sometimes my brain decides it's had enough.
Oh, oh, I misclicked. Oh, no. Oh, I'm gonna cry myself to sleep.
Fortunately, by the end of the day, we were making progress towards the perfect system. In the early hours of day 15, I painstakingly cleaned up my entire mess, piece by piece. But I didn't mind one bit actually, because the payoff was massive. Huge bars, practically gargantuan.
Julie, I've come for your retirement fund. Oh, it's over 1,000. Oh man, that is beautiful. Juicy.
At this point in time, money was definitely off the worry list, and the wild part is that I haven't even hit peak efficiency yet. Once daytime arrived, I cranked my sorting operation into overdrive, and I'll admit, I felt pretty proud seeing everything come together. Granted, the gem filter isn't exactly dancing in perfect harmony, but that's alright for now. My plan is to funnel gold and iron straight into their respective cauldrons for smelting, because if there's one thing I don't need, it's another sorting headache. Little by little, I cobbled together a rudimentary gem system, and by the end of the day, the camp was neat, tidy, and chugging along like a dream. Day 16 kicked off with me buying another furnace and crucible, then I spent way too long trying to rig an auto smelt system. Turns out I was just overthinking it.
Haha! Bucket was the answer all along!
Up next, I repeated the process for golds, and I'll admit that the gold dispenser on this hatch is much easier to work with, so that's a win in my book. I let the whole setup run for a while just to see how much loot I could churn out in one go. During the downtime, I busied myself tidying up the place. By sundown, I shut everything off, collected my freshly minted ingots, and trekked on over to Julie's. The payoff was a hefty 3,229 coin, bringing our total haul to a solid 4,875. It's enough to make me want to tear up. Like, seriously, who knew that molten metal could make me so emotional? And you know, maybe it's time to invest that hard-earned cash into a tractor for some amazing transport capabilities. If only I could figure out the darn price. The next day kicked off with a good long stare at my map. Turns out the Viking village we visited is called Hydroneer, and the castle's bastion keep, and that fishing hub is Burnscroft. While I was tinkering with my machinery, the salesman casually mentioned that I could find even more goodies at a place called Icehelm. Naturally, I loaded up my wagon and headed off into uncharted territory. Uncharted territory for me, that is, because it's definitely marked on the map, don't you worry. We passed Hydroneer in no time and soon found ourselves scaling a snowy mountain dotted with abandoned structures. Eventually, I reached what looked like my destination, an old wrecked settlement that's seen better days. A massive gateway led me into the mountain itself, complete with a gemstone stock market and even stone structures for building a proper house. Inside the gateway sat a big elevator. I descended with it, and let me tell you, the room below gave off some serious Lord of the Rings meets Elven Kingdom vibes. At the end of this grand entrance, there was a colossal anvil and a dude.
Need something specific.
You know what? I don't know what I expected, but I thought whatever you would want would refer to, you know, the elephant in the room.
Sure, the walls had signs supposedly explaining on how to use this mystical contraption, but I can't lie, I'm way too dense to piece that together right now. Further in, I spotted a labeled pathway which led me to a shop featuring conveyor belts and hooks for processing, funnels, smelters, and all sorts of knickknacks to jazz up your base. There was also cloutium tubing, fancy new tools, and specialized machine designs that seemed unique to this area. According to everything that I read, the ore tiers here go from iron to cloutium to corestone in that order. All that, however, pales in comparison to the scale that I stumbled upon. It will help me handle orders down to the exact weight. Super handy when you're rolling in valuables. Deeper in, I crossed an old wooden bridge overflowing with lava. Definitely not up to code. And then noticed a huge chute, and it seems like you can transport items throughout this entire cavern system. Honestly, this feels like one gigantic puzzle waiting to be solved. On day 18, I hauled my entire pile of cash over to the mountain shop, where I basically went on a shopping spree. I snagged a ton of merchandise, most importantly though, all the shiny new tools. I had bought in so many items that I had to use my wagon to haul everything back to the surface, and somehow I managed to cram everything inside and then headed back home. While unloading my freshly bought gear, I discovered the magnifying glass can actually show machines' durability, and the magnet on a stick lets me pull items from a distance, incredibly handy. After earning another nice payout from Julie, I decided to make a second trip all the way to Icehelm to buy some stone construction pieces, and then back home the rake proved invaluable for leveling the ground and laying solid foundations for our new house. By the time night fell, most things were in place, and I was gearing up for purchasing round 2. This time, roof pieces. As I ventured off, one thought kept echoing in my head. I really need me a tractor. A good old green John Deere would be just fine. At dawn of the next day, I slapped on the roof and made one final run for the remaining walls, and just like that, our stone house was complete. A perfect spot for all of my fine-tuning tasks, like measuring out the exact weight of new items. I had been so caught up in building that I didn't even notice our gemstone stash was overflowing. A problem I'm totally okay with, by the way. So I spent some time cleaning up the sparkly mess. With our facilities upgraded, I stopped by Edgar's place, and turns out he wants a 1.5 gold nugget, which is tricky considering I've got nothing but cold hard coin, and you can't split and divide nugget weights. I devoted the night to tracking down that perfect little hunk of gold. Somewhere along the way, though, I picked up a mining helmet, but I still can't figure out how to wear the darn thing, even though I followed the directions exactly by pressing 2. Rolling into day 20, whenever I had a spare moment, I spent it polishing gemstones and trying to reel in new fish from my trusty river. Apparently, it worked, because I landed both a tuna and a crab, so we're eating good tonight. Also, I tried my luck casting by the ocean for some fresh fish to level up my fishing rod, but no dice on getting new ones that I need. At least I can confidently say that I'm getting way better at sorting all these different nugget sizes. Day 21 rolled in with more of the same grind, quite literally, and I spent some time fishing off the docks while I muled over never-ending to-do lists.
Oh, this dude wants a 1.5 iron. Oh, no.
On the bright side, I discovered the market at Burnscroft sells water filters. Who knew? I definitely didn't. Naturally, I dashed back for some cash, bought one, and hooked it up to our pipes. With luck, that'll spare our machinery from frequent breakdowns. Remembering that dreaded 1.5 iron nugget that we still need, I went ahead and dumped all of our molten iron into a cozy little mold, brought it to the scale, and wow! This single iron bar nearly hit 330 kilos.
Oh, you have to be kidding me. 149. Ah, you son of a gun. Oh, not mad. Not mad at all.
I ended up sifting through so many nuggets in search of that perfect chunk of iron, you wouldn't even believe it. Day 22 was an absolute slog because of this. I'm pretty sure that I risked carpal tunnel from sifting through what felt like a mountain of ore. But thankfully, my perseverance finally paid off.
Oh, 1.5. Let's go. Alrighty. Come here, Big Papa. I got something for your...
But as fate would have it, by the time that I proudly presented that nugget, the person who asked for it had already changed their mind on what they wanted. At least Edgar's still on board. For now. On day 23, I tucked that iron nugget away for safekeeping and reset the iron smelting so I could focus on gold.
Oh, there it is. There it is. 1.5 gold nugget, baby. The nugget to trump all nuggets has been found. Edgar, my boy, I got a gift for you, my friend. Come here. Okay, how do I... There you go. Thank you. I hope I never have to do that again.
As for these so-called guild tokens, they are apparently a secondary currency, but I still hadn't figured out where to spend them. I then went looking for someone else that might need a helping hand, and ended up running into a guard who wants a dagger forged from a 200 weighted gold bar. That meant dusting off the scale and trying to get that math just right. Quick disclaimer, I am terrible at math. Luckily, I could use my shiny new smelter for this side project, so it didn't totally mess up my regular cash flow. Even so, it nearly fried my brain because the numbers just weren't adding up. By the time I finally stopped crunching, most of the day was gone. We're so close, but not quite there yet. On day 24, I proceeded to absolutely scramble my brain. As many of you know, I am stubborn to a fault, so I spent the whole day slicing and stacking bars, hoping to land exactly on that sweet 200. Spoiler alert, it refused to hit that perfect number, no matter how many times I tried. The closest ingot for our project was off by a stubborn 1.5. After some frantic math, I snagged 5 nuggets at 0.3 each, fused them together, and presto, hit that perfect 200 weight bar. With that in hand, I crafted the most pristine golden dagger known to humanity, and the guard rewarded me with 805 guild tokens for it, and with that, access to a new part of the castle, which immediately threw me more mind-boggling tasks my way. Oh, and apparently I can make soup in this game if I find any veggies. Go figure. For now, I deposited my shiny new income back at home and tidied up my workshop. With that monster project done, I couldn't dodge reality any longer. Time to fix our gem problem. Naturally, I headed to Icehelm to see if any conveyor belt parts could come to the rescue. I ended up buying a gem polisher, a vertical conveyor, and a splitter, leaving me broke all over again. Early that next morning, I headed back home and started clearing out the soil around the gem section. I'll admit, I was bracing myself for a total rework of our operation just to fit these new upgrades. With no real choice but to expand, I grabbed some stashed ingots, sold them to Julie for almost 10,000 coins, and with these in hand, stocked up on conveyor belt parts. When sundown hit, I got down to business at base. My mission, scoot all the machinery out a little bit further. It sounds like a massive chore, and honestly, it is, but there's something oddly satisfying about it too. Weirdly enough, I'm actually having a really good time. By sunrise, I extended the conveyor system, which immediately felt more efficient since it uses fewer tubes. Everything was finally back up and running, so it was time to tackle the real mission, gem and shard sorting. I started integrating new solutions, and things were looking promising, though the nighttime darkness was still a pain. That's when I finally realized how to equip my helmet. Apparently, you hit Q, not 2. Revelation of the century. Inspired, I tested the same approach on the tractor, and would you know it, I could actually use this thing this whole time. This is going to make my life so much easier. They really need to work on their fonts in this game. With my newly discovered speed machine, I hauled my precious coins to the mountain shop at breakneck pace and bought a few extra parts. Then I tossed them all down the chute for some quick delivery back home. On day 28, I practically skipped out of the mountain shop when I saw all my newly bought goodies neatly loaded onto the tractor. I headed back to base, put on the finishing touches, and fired up the system. The grand plan, you may ask? Shards to get whisked off to their own pan, while gems get cut, polished, and carefully set aside. One day, I'll even separate the gem types. Baby steps, people, let's not get ahead of ourselves. At long last, I could tackle the massive pile of shiny stuff that had been accumulating for ages. This had taken what felt like forever, but I was seriously thrilled to dump everything onto the conveyor belt, even if it made my PC chug a bit.
All right, so I'm literally carrying the sun in a pan right now. This has been technically the collection of multiple, and I mean multiple of days of gems and shards. So I'm excited to see what happens. I'm hoping it doesn't overflow to the sides, because that would be a shame. Without further ado, here we go. That's just one giant diamond dump right there. Look at it go! It just formed a glowing turd. That's right. Get that organized. Oh, that is so satisfying. Oh, that is pure bliss. It just looks so inappropriate. Oh, look at it all just pop out like that. Oh, I think that's an onyx. I think that's our first onyx. Yeah. Oh, there's another one in there too. Oh, that was worth it. Oh, that was worth it. That just made the whole 100 days right there.
With that handled, I finally sealed up the hole in the floor that had been seriously bugging me, and to be honest, at this point, I felt like I advanced so much I didn't really know how to be more efficient, so for the rest of the evening, I just tidied up and admired my handiwork. On day 29, I gave everything a quick glance over, snagged my trusty map along with some coins and basic digging gear, and then rolled on off towards Bridgeport. I'm sorry. After navigating across an intersection, I stumbled upon a gold stock market and then continued straight into town. This place, known as Bridgeport, boasts a truck dealership, and honestly, the prices don't seem too steep. Next up, I also found a scrapyard.
One man's trash is other man's hot trash.
Across the street was a wagon store, plus the usual variety of shops that I'd seen before, and a dragon skull. Because why not? Also discovered a vendor for wooden house pieces, and even a fancy decor store that's definitely on my future shopping list. Venturing further, I hit Hubson's Power Works, where I nearly lost it over barrels of TNT and mini nukes. I also spotted a bunch of items labeled Logic. Looks like they're all about ones and zeros, and my brain already hurts just thinking about that. At the far end of town, I also found the Cottage Supply Corporation with even more stores, large buildings, a massive ferry, and a new vehicle shop for heavy-duty drilling machines. They also sell core stone supplies and extra cottage pieces. Clearly, this is the biggest town of the map. I hopped back on the road and soon arrived at the local quarry, way larger than Ember Cradle, I might add. Surprise though, you can't just dig here for free, you gotta purchase the land first. Since I don't have these funds yet, I hightailed it back as fast as my tractor could go and spent all night farming more coin from Julie. On top of all that, my fish bucket was overflowing, so I swung back to Burnscroft to see if any of these might be the elusive fish needed for the next fishing rod upgrade. Sadly, no luck this time. Turns out I got everything but the right one, but at least these fish don't spoil, so that's more moolah for me. Day 30 had me loading up the essentials so I could go ahead and buy that brand new quarry. South Hope Quarry is officially mine. I have no clue how to handle so much land, but I do know that I want to deck out this mining facility with higher tier materials. While thinking what the heck to do with my massive new plot, I fished as the sun rose, and then it hit me. More land means more money. Of course, so I tested the soil to see what goodies it held. Didn't take long to unearth some core stone, or we must have struck it rich, I suppose. And I did remember that apparently the deeper you dig, the more valuable your finds, so naturally I dashed back to the city to snag an advanced pickaxe to dig deeper, only to discover that the store here doesn't accept Hydrocoin. They want guild tokens for this top tier pick, which means I actually have to help people to earn those. Who knew? Since I'm a bit short on tokens, it's time to tackle some orders. First up, an emerald and gold ring. Getting the gold bar to the right weight wasn't too bad this time, but I ran into a snag. How do I score a gem that big? There must be a way, given I've got a chisel to split gems in half. Off I went, combing the new shops, and sure enough, I found a logic gem compressor. That's going to be interesting, considering I've never messed with logic parts before. I also grabbed a few more conveyor belt pieces and headed home to strategize. After fine-tuning the setup, I noticed a couple of conveyor pieces missing, but no big deal, because my tractor makes quick trips in a breeze. Before long, I had a shiny conveyor belt system with a dedicated gem sorter for each type of gemstone. Once I set up collection pans for each sorter, I dumped my pan of gems onto the belts, and in a glorious display of workplace efficiency, every single gemstone sailed into its proper pan. Next up was installing the gemstone compressor. Thankfully, I also grabbed a logic controller. Without it, the compressor would have been about as useful as a glass hammer. After getting it plugged in, I started compressing all of my gems to dial in the perfect sized emerald. Time to bring on the sparkles, and with that, the cash flow. While waiting on more emeralds to process, I realized that I left my gold crucible totally unattended. Cue major cleanup session. At least it was still morning by the time I finally nailed the exact weight. Right when I was about to craft the ring, I noticed my gold bar was off by one singular unit. Almost made a massive whoopsie daisy if I would have crafted the ring with this. Luckily, by dusk, I tweaked it to perfection, and just like that, our client happily accepted the ring for a bundle of guild tokens, though probably not enough for that fancy pickaxe that I want. Off I went to find another job, and along the way, I spotted someone in need of a 1.5 iron nugget. Remember that we toiled over this for ages? I dashed home, scooped it up, and hurried back as fast as I could, only to discover the guy had already vanished. But no way he is slipping through my fingers yet again. I hunted him down, hot on his trail, my iron nugget in hand, ready to seal this deal. Like a rabid animal, I spent all night into the next morning hunting for this dude. At dawn, he finally showed up outside the same shop again, only now he couldn't care less about my precious nugget. So I begged the townfolk to buy this lonely pebble, but they just roamed about, ignoring me completely. So ultimately, I dropped my oh so valuable nugget right at Desmond's doorstep and grabbed a simpler quest worth over 900 guild tokens. Hey, a win's a win. Once I got home, I realized rubies that I gathered were only about half the needed weight, so I'd have to wait on that. Meanwhile, I was busy scouring for more tasks and still refusing to forget my beloved iron nugget.
Ooh, 2 point... what? 2 point... The audacity! The audacity of this... Oh my god. I don't want to ever see you. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want your tokens. I don't want nothing. Leave me be, foul demon.
Eventually, I found a request from Roy for an axe, totally doable, and another from Edgar for an iron dagger. You already know what this means. The rest of my night was spent slaving away at the forge, trying to bring these new commissions to life. In the early hours of day 34, I finally nailed the exact weight for the iron bar, With that done, I turned my attention to the gold bar, which, after a solid chunk of tedious labor, hit its perfect weight close to nightfall. That meant I could finally craft Roy's axe and head off to deliver it. Picture me strolling through a snowy path at dusk, carrying a shiny axe. Naturally, I turn to you all and wonder, should I do a 100 days in Skyrim? Anyways, after dropping off Roy's axe, I spent the rest of the night forging Edgar's dagger, because who needs sleep when there's gold and glory at stake? I thought to myself going into day 35 if this is the most efficient way of going about this, and it definitely is not. Is it all that my brain can currently muster? Most definitely.
Oh, that hurts. Oh, that hurts. It hurts every time.
You know what? That does it. I'm determined to find a weight sorter if it's the last thing that I do. By sunset, I finally snagged the elusive nugget and forged the dagger, and the client, as we delivered his goods, handed over a nice boost in guild tokens. I'll accept more tasks once I figure out a better way to sort weights. Meanwhile, I hurried my stash of guild tokens over to Bridgeport and finally bought the advanced pickaxe that I had been drooling over. At long last, on day 36, I started excavating my brand new quarry at South Hope. As you know, the plan is to dig deeper to tap into richer resources, but let's be real, my hands are incredibly soft, so it was a lot of physical labor for me, and it got crazy dark down this mine shaft, so I ran home, grabbed my miner's hat and a fistful of cash, and figured that TNT might be helpful, but after using it, I realized it's not that effective.
Okay, that was incredibly underwhelming. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. You know, honestly, this might be more useful for like TNT fishing or something. And considering I can't die, let me just stand like right next to this. Yeah, that was 100% a waste of my hard-earned cash.
I bolted to Icehelm to check out their machines. They sell different tiered contraptions, and each design calls for a specific amount of ore to craft, but I misplaced all of my clotium and core stone, and I'm gonna need a lot of this anyways to make this, so I'm stuck starting with tier 1, basically. So I bought the schematics for all 3 tier 1 machines, and zipped back to my base at Ember Cradle for iron bars. Lucky for me, the first 100 weight bar was basically handed to me by fate, no math required, but next up was the 60 bar, which was painfully tricky.
Oh, you bitch. Oh, double
By the next morning, my persistence had paid off. I got the 60 bar done. Then it was on to the 300 bar. Thanks to the power of math, and maybe some guesswork, I nailed it. With all that sorted, I chucked my materials onto the truck, and by now, I had grown fond of this hunk of metal, so I have christened her as Old Betty. She hauled everything, plus the spare tubing, to Icehelm, so I could finally craft the new machines at the giant anvil. And thanks to having my wagon here now, it was pretty easy to get all the freshly forged machines loaded onto Old Betty. Feeling like a kid on Christmas morning, I rushed to set everything up. That's when I realized the water source was miles away. So cue the need for more piping. Rather than sticking with the basics, I decided to upgrade to Clotium tubing because, you know, go big or go home. Building a base ain't cheap, I grumbled, as I bought what felt like the entire store. Hopefully, this'll let me launch my new quarry operation. While loading up Old Bessie, Desmond appeared. I wanted to give him that precious nugget that I'd left at his doorstep, but of course, he changed his quest. Desmond might just be the reason this city goes up in flames. Luckily, I discovered that you can drop unlimited items onto Old Bessie by jumping and looking at the sky. Best glitch ever. Getting back to base at sunset, I started constructing my facility, and realizing that I'd still need more Cloutium tubing, despite emptying my wallet earlier, I settled on at least setting up the auto miner so some profit could trickle in. Not surprisingly, I needed some serious coin to solve these new piping problems. I spent day 39 grinding out more money, and also picked up some water filters. 4 were for Camp Cradle, and 5 for our new facility at South Hope. With these, I hope that our water quality will finally reach 100%, and we never need to repair our machines again. During the supply run, Old Bessie let out a nasty sputter. Turns out, she was out of fuel. Perfect timing! With Old Bessie empty, I had to hoof it around looking for a quick fix. Ended up filling a pan with water, hopped on top of her, and gave her a drink. And just like that, she was purring like new. Anyway, I bought 25 straight tubes and some spare L pipes. Knowing that I'd also probably need some conveyor belts, I grabbed a few next door too. With all these new goodies, I went a bit wild, setting up a pipeline that finally reached the mine entrance. Satisfying, to say the least. From there, I cleared a downward path to lay a solid foundation and started building my water pipes all the way on down. Given the depth, I'm probably going to need max water pressure on this beast. I spent the night clearing out dirt, making room for the best mining operation this side of the island. The dream is coming together, slowly, but oh so surely. At the crack of dawn, I swung by Camp Cradle to make sure everything was running smoothly, only to discover 2 of my water filters were already broken.
I know what's wrong with it. It ain't got no gas in it.
I started compacting gems and, in the heat of the moment, made a massive oopsie-doopsie.
Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, shit. Oh, boy. Oh, we live. We live. Holy moly. I thought that was the end of it. Oh, boy. You know what? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Doing this is for the... Oh, whoa. Whoa. What? Hello? Oh, no. What have I done? I regret everything. Oh, wait. Pan. All these are gonna go to the end. I did that. Please. Oh, no. This is gonna be a problem. Oh, this is bad. Oh. Oh. Oh, Lord. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but evidently this is not meant to compact freaking shards. That has become very clear.
Apparently, shards do not like being compacted, so I had a glorious mess to clean up. Luckily, I rediscovered a tool that made my life infinitely easier.
Oh. Oh. Oh, this is good. Oh. Oh, this is beautiful. Come to Papa. Oh. Let me just take a massive shiny dump into this furnace here. Hold on. I am Magneto.
With the chaos tidied up, I hopped onto Old Bessie, grabbed many more pipes, and returned to South Hope, which I had dubbed the Seaman facility because it's next to the sea, for more pipe laying and hole digging. And honestly, doing all of this is a total throwback to our Deep Rock Galactic sessions on our group channel, The Nest. Go check it out sometime. Realizing I needed Camp Cradle to churn out more coin for my new facility, I spent all of day 42 digging and expanding my quarry hole. By the time I wrapped up that hard day's work, I cashed in at Julie's and decided to buy more straight pipes instead of L-shaped ones to save on cost. On day 43, I reworked the system to use more straights than Ls. Of course, I still ran out of tubing, which meant selling off the gemstones that I hoarded since the dawn of this recording. I kept my precious onyx though. They are way too rare to part with. It hurt to sell the rest, but that sacrifice funded more Cloutium tubing, which should get the Seaman facility rolling. What a noble sacrifice if I do say so myself. Day 44 was all about digging. I spent practically every minute deepening that pit. Now and then, I did scurry back to Camp Cradle for upkeep, my word for fixing what keeps breaking. By nightfall, my brand new tubing finally reached the bottom of the cave, which meant I could start assembling the machines of this facility. As for day 45, I noticed I might have gone a bit overboard on this hole because my tier 1 auto drill can't handle rock solid ground at this depth, so some small rearrangements are in order. I plopped it on softer soil and confirmed tier 1 can't mine tier 2 or tier 3 ground. So I carved out a nook higher up, set it all up, and got it working. No regrets on the extra piping though, as it'll come in handy later. This quarry should have loads of core stone and Cloutium, I just need the right gear. Most of the next morning was spent rigging up an iron sorting system at the Seaman facility, plus the usual Camp Cradle upkeep. By noon, iron sorting was automated, so I started locking all of the loose stuff into place so that I don't accidentally pick it up while working here. I built a sort of conga line of sorters and smelters on day 47, and by the end of the day, they were humming along beautifully.
Okay, so we have a whole Cloutium system with an extra pressure tank, 5 filters, an extra little boosty boost by this thing right here, and as y'all know, it goes straight down into the mine shaft. And how this system works at the moment is in this conga line. It is all at tier 1 depth. The idea is that we're going to place one down there for tier 2 and tier 3, and at the moment it should work. We got a lot of pressure over here, and the idea is it goes into the filter and sorts itself into gold, iron, cloutium, core stone, and then gems, and then hopefully all of any of the unpolished gems go into that little bucket over there. Without further ado, let's let her rip. Okay, we have a snag of the plans. It turns out things are not perfect in paradise, as the gold nuggets seem to be getting stuck right about there, which wasn't the case at Camp Cradle, so I'm a little bit perplexed by this, but it is what it is. Looks like we're just gonna have to find a solution to this and maybe restructure this in a staircase system.
This fix required a lot of brain power, and what we came up with is to use conveyor belt sorters to put the nuggets into smelters. At least we know that the conveyor belts will be running at what seems to be Mach 5. Just look at these nuggets go! The little bit of money that I was gathering from Camp Cradle was dumped instantly into conveyor sorters. Slowly but surely, this operation was being optimized to its fullest capacity. By day 49, I added the final touches to the automated system and cranked this contraption to maximum overdrive. I've saved a ton of tubing and pans and don't have to fuss with multiple furnaces. Seeing all of this run flawlessly gave me a serious sense of pride. I wrapped up the evening by cleaning up my workspace just the way I liked it, and finally, we started reaping the rewards of this massive investment on day 50. The Seaman facility's output shot up, and those tier 2 designs at Icehelm suddenly felt attainable. For now, though, I invested in some building parts to make the space more accessible and spent a good chunk of time perfecting the place. I capped off the day by crafting a snazzy entrance to the mineshaft, and I couldn't be happier. It's all coming together, and we're only halfway through the 100 days. The only thing this base is missing is a solid workspace, so while sprucing up the place, I snagged up a crab pot to passively farm fish at the shore, and figured I'd throw in a scale, table, and a few more goodies for the workshop. I even built an intentionally shabby looking shack over the mineshaft just to make the vibe just right. I could practically smell the money from up here. To wrap up this day, I checked my cloutium amount and noticed we're closing in on 20 kilograms. Not bad, but we can do better, as my plan for tomorrow was to bring more machines to this facility to double our output and cut down on back and forth trips. And that's exactly what I did on day 52. My plan was to create a symmetrical setup on the other side of the mineshaft using the same conveyor belts and smelters. Naturally, I just had to buy more supplies first.
That's honestly not too bad. You know what, Desmond? I still hate you for not taking the nugget. That's it. That's the end of the conversation.
I did get a bit too fancy with the detailing and left one drill dangling midair, but a minor extension fixed that right up by nightfall. Thanks to our minimal investment, we officially doubled our income potential here. We'll be rolling in dough very, very soon. Before jumping into tier 2 machinery, I want an auto repair system for the filters though, and maybe a gem sorter too. None of this is wasted time since I still need plenty of cloutium to build those shiny designs at Icehelm. Day 53 was all about hooking up gem sorters. We spent all day doing that, and by nightfall, everything was up and running with a gem compressor in the mix, working like a charm. Next up, we had to tackle those auto repairs that I've been dreaming about. I visited Hobson's Powerworks, suspecting I would need a durability reader and spanner hurler combo. Since I have 5 filters and they keep breaking, I'll need 5 separate setups. The connections seem to be different, so I just grabbed a ton of cables and hauled it all back to the facility. On day 54, I remembered to pick up a bunch of spanners for the hurlers, but that cost me a bit of money, but good thing I also sold a gold bar for over 20 grand. That's the payoff that we live for. With these newly acquired funds, I stocked up on more cables, but the logic circuit still refused to behave. Then it hit me. I need a logic switch. One more trip to Hobson's Powerworks, a few logic flip hooks later, and bam! Everything finally worked. I replicated the setup for each filter, and by day's end, I concluded that I just had to keep the hurlers stocked with spanners to keep the system alive. Now I can finally leave on adventures without production grinding to a halt. I'm so happy. On day 55, I decided to take my wad of cash and march on over to Icehelm so I could buy the tier 2 designs. We paid a massive amount of money and bought all 3 in one go, and had a glance at the designs. Gathering enough cloutium for these machines will be quite hard, as that resource seems quite scarce, so I decided to make another tier 1 drill, hoping that that would pay off. On my way back to base, I decided to make a pit stop at a village that we hadn't seen before yet, called Grangefield, I think that's how you pronounce it, and they seem to sell everything for your farming needs, as well as cooking stuff too. The town seems to deal in a different currency, something like a farming guild token, but one little shop here deals in Hydroneer coin, so I'll be sure to stop by after we set up our third drill. And to build that, I went to pick up the remaining iron that was left at Camp Cradle and began to forge this big iron bar that we would need. After prepping ingots and bringing them over to the factory to complete the process, it was on day 56 that I searched for the perfect nugget weight, and by sundown first, smelted a 300 weight ingot, enough for that tier 1 drill that I wanted. Our Cloutium stash also hit 80 kilograms by now, putting us halfway to our tier 2 goal. With the third drill in hand, I headed back home, ready to ramp up Cloutium production. Installing this third drill wasn't too hard, thanks to the existing tubing layout. Well, I did forget to connect the water to the conveyor belts, but after a little bit of reorganizing, that got fixed. The triple drill system was now operational, and while waiting on our 150 kilogram Cloutium bar, I also needed to get a 1,000 kilogram iron bar. That's our biggest project yet.
Why?
Eventually, I found the exact piece that I needed, which was so satisfying. All that's left is preparing a proper spot for tier 2 drilling. Day 58 started off interestingly as I caught a puffer fish, which is exactly what I needed for my next fishing rod. With the old slippy grip pole, and considering I had left a crab here last time, I got straight to the placeholder fishing rod. I was so excited to use it and made my way back to base.
I don't suppose you can grab me this.
You can grab my nuts, old man. Can't you see I'm busy?
Back at home, I cleared out an area for the future tier 2 station, and fortunately, I had bought a ton of Cloutium tubing earlier, so running pipes to the new platform was quite easy. I spent the rest of the day testing out my fancy rod, hoping to snag my next catch being a swordfish. It dawned on me though on day 59 that instead of just fishing, I could build a greenhouse or something and grow veggies passively in the meantime, so I hopped onto old Bessie, bought a bunch of farming supplies, and went all in on that farmer life. I dug small holes with a shovel, planted some seeds, and prayed that I watered them enough for them to stay alive. Only time will tell. I also set up a bare bones kitchen and seed extractor, then spent the evening forging 3 new tier 1 intake booster hooks, each weighing 60 kilograms, because as they say, planning ahead never hurts. By day 60, I was thoroughly sick of manually measuring ingots, so it's time to solve this issue once and for all. I hopped on over to the logic shop to see if I could find the remedy for this issue, and although I didn't know how to use it, the cumulative weight reader sounded like what I was needing. However, I didn't actually buy it, and eventually found out that what I'd been looking for was a logic saw hook. So I went and got my guild tokens, figuring I might have just found the cure to my biggest headache. But the question stood before me: where the hell do I set this up? I decided to enlarge my workspace to accommodate the new equipment, and in the evening, we began to set up our logic device.
I don't think this is gonna work at all, but let's find out. If this gives me a 10, my life has changed. Oh my god, this is amazing. Oh, this changes everything. Oh, I beat the game. I beat the game.
No more dastardly days need to be wasted going through different weights. I was so thankful that this worked. I was beaming with joy. We're finally on track for serious efficiency. And so at long last, this new logic saw was set to work on day 61, setting it to 60 and carving off 3 neat chunks for intake boosters. Life has never been this easy. I raced back to Icehelm, forged them within seconds, and proudly hooked them up to our beloved facility back home, which is quickly becoming my pride and joy. But here's the beauty of this game: the efficiency knows no bounds, and all the guild tokens are now at the tip of our fingertips. It was pure bliss to look at an item requisition, cut the required weight off, and cash in the tokens. To end off the day, I did some inventory and was shocked to realize I had an iron bar that is worth almost 100,000 coins, and a gold bar that just surpassed that. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. So on day 62, I went on a spending spree for all sorts of miscellaneous items. Crab pots, a safe, a chair, some lamps, all the works. These items here helped me deck out the base, making it feel more homey. In the afternoon, I prioritized the preparation of a farming patch and turned my first 2 tomatoes into some seeds because honestly, they're quite expensive, but still in the evening, I was off to buy more seeds as I'm going to need more than just these 2 on hand. And just as I returned back home, we reached the 200 kilograms of Cloutium, which I turned into a bar of 50 kgs and a bar of 150, all so that I could make some tier 2 machinery. So it was at dusk of day 63 that we brought our bars over to Icehelm and forged our machines under the intense heat of greed. I went to bring them home straight away to hook them up to our desired depth, and on my way back I was just keeping an eye out for some item requisitions to take. I just want to find someone to give my 1.5 iron nugget.
Very lucky this game doesn't let me punch.
I returned to the facility very excited to connect everything, but noticed that the drill had a weird connection spot. It's different than tier 1, so I put a bit of thought into fixing this, and although I came up with a very unoptimized system, it kind of works for now. Emphasis on kind of, but what matters is that it's producing. So for the moment, I can dump everything it makes into our sorting conga line at tier 1. What was nice to see is that it seemed that we would be getting core stone much more frequently with this device at tier 2 depth. Day 64 began by tending to our growing pile of fish and planting all the seeds that I had previously bought. And to make the irrigation system for this farm, I decided to dismantle the tubing arrangement at Camp Cradle since my plants don't need the water pressure of expensive Cloutium tubing.
Go Bessie, go Bessie, go Bessie, 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 go Bessie, go Bessie.
I gathered some of the iron tubing and made my way back quickly as I wanted to get this done fast for Papa needs some farm guild tokens. I got to work straight away, but this wasn't easy. You see, I love South Hope, but the beach of South Hope is separated quite a bit compared to Ember Cradle, so it was definitely a drag to make enough tubing to reach the quarry area again, but at least the positive is that this tubing will also double for a refueling station for old Bessie, which will prevent me from getting stuck on the road. As for actually farming, it became considerably more clear that if I wanted to use this tubing method, I would need to first place down the pipes and then plant the seeds, because aiming the pipe drip is impossible. But in a positive light, we've come a long way since we first got here, and it is definitely showing. We also had an impressive 21 kilograms of core stone by the end of the day, which is very nice. First, by noon of day 65, I finished installing a drip irrigation system for the crops, which should hold me over until I can snag a proper sprinkler. I took another quick shopping run for a tool rack, gotta stay organized, some roofing for the kitchen area, and was excited to see how far my green thumb could possibly take me on this farming side project. The rest of the day was spent on much needed cleanup, since my base was starting to look like a hoarder's paradise. Day 66 was a fishing day, since most of my machines and crops were busy doing their thing, so all we could do is fish and try to get the swordfish for our next fishing rod. That's a lot of fish. But yes, it didn't take us long for us to find what we were looking for, as we had landed an absolutely microscopic swordfish. Without much dilly-dally, I traded it in for the emerald fishing pole. Our next target is a monkfish. I'd recognize that shape anywhere due to my RuneScape experience from back in the day. I continued to use the emerald rod in hopes to get the monkfish, but only managed to obtain a shark, which is still great, but not what I need. More and more, this reminds me of when me and the boys made our 100 Days of Raft video. By sundown, most of what I had planted had grown, but the stems stayed after harvesting them, so I'd wait to see if they would regrow or if I would have to cut it all down. On the next day, I made myself busy by cutting tomatoes with our industrial grade saw so I could complete some requests. I whipped out my cooking skills, and all you need to do is add the cut tomato to a pot of boiling water, and there you are. Soup. This soup was handed to our good friend Clyde for a solid 12 farm guild tokens. A cheap That's basically nothing, as we need over 2,000 for a singular sprinkler hook. Who is making these prices? This is definitely price gouging. For now, I left my farming aside, as I had achieved enough Cloutium for a second tier 2 drill, which we forged to perfection. By the end of the day, I had effectively doubled my production, and I wasn't mad about that one bit at all. Before starting up the second drill though, I wanted to see how much the first drill made us until now.
Oh! Ooh, mama! Look at that go! Now imagine, all of that times 2 is what we're making right now. That is nuts.
Let's just say I embarked on a grand soup delivery crusade across the island. Only the most refined palates may taste it. And, well, there's Desmond. Desmond. I delivered my soups to my clients, but I realized that these people are not a very eco-friendly bunch, as they seem to have no problem with littering, but at least that gives me my bowls back. The farm guild tokens were slowly stacking up, and I did not shy away from accepting any farming quests that I found. Even got to prepare some mixed soups with carrots and tomatoes. Gordon Ramsay would be so proud, I can already tell. At midnight, I uprooted all of my crops, as I felt like they weren't producing any vegetables anymore, so I had to replant all of them after that. And thus, the farming grind continued into day 69.
One day I'll buy a shiny new truck.
Of course you will, Desmond. Of course you will.
I don't suppose you can grab me this?
You're wasting my time, Betty. You're wasting my time.
In search of some new quests, I stumbled upon a new quarry called Drek. All me and Max Raptor could find online about this quarry is that people, for some odd reason, don't particularly like it, so I shall join in the unexplained hate and also say, fuck Drek. If anything, this will be a nuclear bomb testing site. Right next door, close to Icelm, is also the Mildew Aquifer, which has its water underground. What an interesting concept for the game. By afternoon, I was short on tomatoes again, so I spent the rest of the day on base upkeep, unloading the tier 2 mining pan, which nearly blew up my PC from the sheer volume, and fished throughout the night, stashing away any rare catches that I came across, like that shark that I named Bruce and an extra swordfish, safely tucked away at my new vault. On day 70, I set my sights on relocating the auto sorters so they could handle tier 2 resources without me dumping everything at once and nuking my frame rate. I spent the morning planning and shopping for new parts, and in the afternoon, knee-deep in dirt, expanded and rearranged the whole facility. This place is getting a major overhaul. Hopefully, my machines and my PC will thank me later. And that's how I wrapped up day 70, with big ambitions for an even more efficient Seaman facility, and only 30 more days to go until the grand finale, so things are ramping up quick. To kick off day 71, I strutted over to Julie's with a tiny 86,000 valued gold bar, just to show off how far we've come, and then stocked up on some much needed conveyor belts.
Damn, you're gonna need to keep digging.
I'm tired, Grandpa. Well, that's too bad.
You keep digging!
The rest of the day was spent toiling away in the dark recesses of the cave, chiseling out the next big step of our operation. Seaman Factory 2.0 was set up, but not yet perfected on day 72.
Okay, so this is how the system's supposed to work. Ignoring the farm and all that, nothing here has really changed, but essentially, as y'all know, water flows down, and we've kind of simplified some of the things. Tier 1 depth, all of these miners simply just dump their processed dirt and ores all the way through this conveyor belt down this chute, which should land all of the ores right here. They then proceed to go here and take a right and land at a centralizer, where as well all the ore falls down from the depth tier 2 drills. Now, for now, we have auto smelting and auto sorting for all of the ores set up, and hopefully that works and they don't fall all over the place. And at the end, we just have a chute and hope that all of the raw gemstones or cross-cut gemstones fall into this for the time being until we come up with that fix, because I kind of want to get this show on the road. And without further ado, I think it's time we let her rip. Just got to turn this valve right here, and presto! Let's hope we don't come to a complete and utter mess. Alright, everything here seems to be going fine. Obviously, nothing here has really changed. It's just that all of this stuff isn't getting auto-sorted. We're just moseying along together with the ores, which seem to do just well. Yeah, like, they're doing just fine. Going to the right, getting centralized, and presto. Everything seems to be going well. Would you look at that? Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. We haven't had a screw-up in this flow, except for that. Of course, something had to happen. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. And why is there... Maybe I spoke too soon. Either way, it's going better than I expected. I'm happy.
I did, however, notice that some nuggets were being flung across the space, seemingly due to the fact that the funnel was too high up, causing some of the pieces to go AWOL, so I fixed the issue by making a chimney of funnels. And sure enough, that seemed to do the trick. All I needed to do now was clean up the mess it left behind. All this effort, just so my PC wouldn't threaten to self-destruct from the chaos. So after several trips to buy parts on day 73, along with a fair amount of hammering things into place, the new system is finally running smoothly. Is what I thought. Sure, it's cramped, but it does the job, and I'll take functionality over pretty any day. We're sitting on a hefty 200 kilograms of core stone on day 74, still 600 short of the 800 kilograms needed for a tier 3 drill, sure, so we have ways to go, but since everything is cruising along, the most logical thing for me to do now is just keep cooking, I suppose. Hopefully one day we can make a full-blown greenhouse up here, but while doing my kitchen duties, I realized that even at ground level, the game stuttered quite considerably. I wonder what I have to do to fix that. This is definite foreshadowing. On day 75, I had some login troubles, but thankfully the main menu has a delete loose ore option, and that cleared up a lot of random bits that I didn't know existed, and this should have queued me in on a major problem, but it didn't. The game was running way smoother after this, so that's all I cared about. So back to the grind I went. In my humble opinion, the farming and soup quests are the most painful to do because you can't cut veggies into decimal weights, but that changed as I discovered on a forum that you can use more than what the quest calls for the soup. Hallelujah! That's right, the veggie weights on the item requisitions are only the minimum amount. So while my soup simmered, I reeled in a big old monkfish at long last. After my soup deliveries, I traded that fish for the real dream fishing rod, so I was stoked. And the good news is that the next fish needed was a shark, and I just happened to have one lying around, and so instantly we traded up for the next night rod. So, much to my surprise, as soon as I got back to base on day 76, I realized I only need one more rod, so I committed the day to grinding it out. All that's left is an elusive lobster.
Yeah, the thing is, for me, it was like a... Oh, what? Okay, mission success. I guess we're done. Let's hand it in.
I then went back to Burnscroft and traded my final sea creature for the master fishing pole. That's one thing off my checklist. To celebrate, I considered buying a drilling vehicle, but I ended up being short on guild tokens, so I spent the day fulfilling prospector item requisitions, which in my humble opinion are much more fun to do than the farming ones. To make these items, I applied a slight change to the setup by bringing the logic saw down to my workspace. In the late evening, this change was applied, which should increase my quest output significantly. Day 77 was used to accept and execute different prospecting quests. One after the other, these item requisitions were squeezed out with ease. At the end of the day, I completed 4 orders for a total of 3,191 guild tokens. I'm no Scrooge McDuck over here, but I'm guessing it's something. The next day, I noticed that the farming quests that were popping up were now requiring different veggies, so seems like the word of our good soup is spreading across the land. On my journey to gather as many farming quests as possible now, I came across Snow Rune Falls Quarry. Icy cold here, seems to be all frozen over, but sadly there is no one here to give me quests. After preparing and handing in 2 more quests, I finally had enough to buy the drilling vehicle. It's called the Mole, and I can't wait to see what it can do. So the first thing I did was drive to Camp Cradle to try it out. This beast chews through dirt like a hot knife through butter. Wish I had this when I was setting up the Seaman factory. Would have saved me a few days for sure. While I was digging in Ember Cradle, I spotted something in the dirt though on day 79, a spyglass relic. I have no idea what it does, so I put it aside and just kept digging, and thus made the mistake by getting into a pickle that didn't allow me to get all the dirt out with the mole, so I had a very bright idea. What I required was a very specific logic item, some logic TNT, and if push comes to shove, we'll just have to dig it out with a pickaxe. I set everything up and tried out the first one. It made a sizable crater, sure, but I wasn't that impressed. It blew up some of the cables and even the lever, leaving me with chunks of scrap metal. Not sure what this is for, but safe to say, this did not go as planned, and I will be clearing out the rest with my pickaxe. And sure enough, at sundown, I got another one of these relics. This one being of a sword. I wonder what they're used for. Unsure if I would find any more, I just kept digging throughout the night and placed these relics in the pedestals of the cave nearby, because, you know, that is what the item description tells me to do. So I guess we need 2 more. Logically, I figured the other 2 relics would be deeper in the opposite side of the base, so I stocked up on TNT and spent most of day 80 rigging everything up. Blowing up our very first base was kind of hurtful, stung a little bit, but hey, it's for science. Unfortunately, these explosions were quite modest, so I realized I'd probably need nukes for anything larger than this. The mole helped out a bit, sure, but I didn't find any more relics, meaning other quarries likely hold them. As for Camp Cradle, sometimes you just gotta accept that an old base has given it its all and move on. The only other quarry that I could look for relics on day 81 was South Hope, as I only had that quarry purchased, so I bought a steamroller and flattened the place out. And boy oh boy, using this machine is so incredibly satisfying. It took me over half a day to flatten out the majority, and then I had to bring the mole on over to start digging out the rest. Through the night, I operated heavy machinery, always trying to be sure to not dig into our mine shaft, and boy, the mole's turn radius is legendarily terrible. But hey, at least on day 82, I was quickly becoming a strip mining savant. Plus, the steamroller smoothed everything out with minimal fuss. Midway though, I noticed a sparkly patch of dirt. Turns out it was a rich iron vein and not another relic. So we gotta keep looking. By evening, I dug tons of dirt out with nothing to show for, so I decided to shift tactics. If brute force wasn't going to cut it, I'll just bring in the big guns. Time to buy my first nuke. So I tried to get it to the center of the largest mound of dirt, made a cozy little nook for our nuke, and prepared for demolition.
Alrighty, this is it, the moment we've been waiting for. I have planted the bomb. Smack dab in the middle, and I don't know how much it's gonna clear. I just hope that the result is just getting another relic, because that's all we're after. The rest is all secondary. So, if y'all don't mind me, I'm gonna roleplay as Oppenheimer, turn this bitch into Nevada, and without any further ados, here we go. Oh, there is the cloud. I was like, did it actually happen? Well, it does have a nuclear cloud. Sure, I'll give it that. Oh, it's still going too. Okay. Interesting. I feel like I'm going to need 50 of these though if I want to make any significant dent. But let's see the damage we did. Let's have a little peek inside, shall we? Okay, it does look a little bit more significant once you're inside. However, there is no artifact to be seen, which is a shame. Ain't gonna lie, I was kind of hoping to be doing this as a one and done thing. But I guess my work isn't done here yet.
After all that, I turned my attention to something a bit more productive, forging 2 more tier 2 drills to speed up core stone farming. After a quick stop at Icehelm to craft them, and grabbing some extra tubing and conveyor belts from Bridgeport, of course. Beep, beep.
Wow, that was an achievement. Bonk, hit 25 NPCs with a vehicle. It's been 25 already?
I hurried back home only to find that my auto repair machines were nearly out of spanners, so another shopping trip was in order. This auto repair machine has saved me so much time, so I'm not even mad. Bright and early the next morning, I got to work installing those 2 new tier 2 drills. This required a whole lot of head scratching and involuntary brain usage, and by sundown though, both drills were humming. Now we're cooking with fire, folks. I checked my core stone stash, 252 kilograms out of the total of 1,100 kilograms that we need for the tier 3 drill and harvester. We still have a long road ahead, but hey, it's progress. Relic hunting again on day 85, I realized searching for a tiny trinket in a mountain of dirt is basically the equivalent of looking for a needle in a haystack. At some point though, I accidentally dug into my own mine shaft. It was inevitable, really. The best part is though that I managed to flip the mole completely upside down and then started driving on the ceiling. Not quite as efficient as I was hoping for, but silly nonetheless. I refuse to quit on day 86. If there is a relic somewhere in this dirt, I'm going to find it, no matter the cost. So looking for it took up the entire day, and thanks to my stubbornness, my efforts paid off in the morning of day 87.
Oh, I saw it! Or does my eyes deceive me? I saw something. Get back here. Where was it? I know I saw something. I'm not there it is. I'm not crazy. Ah,
Finally, another relic. With angelic choirs singing, I loaded it onto old Bessie and took it to its final pedestal. Only one more to go. Needing a break though from all that digging, I tackled some item quests and used my earnings for a fancy new prospecting helmet. Its gears spin when you're looking in the direction of an ore vein, which is pretty handy. I also spotted a core stone intake tube at the shop, snagged it, and went full throttle by dropping my humongous shard bar into this new pressure tank, which I also purchased. This baby's running at Formula 1 speeds now. On day 88, with nothing better to do, I did a couple of rounds on old Bessie to find new quests, but couldn't find any, so I had no choice but to free up some NPCs by fulfilling some of their farming quests. So once I was on my way to hand over some of my famous soups, Dolores handed me a prospecting quest, which made me very happy. I finished that quest and handed it in to end off the day. The next morning, I worked a bit on my small garden and decided I might as well try and plant some other types of vegetables, so I moseyed on over to Grangefield, where I was shocked to find out the prices for seeds. I spent so much time doing farming quests and could only buy 1 pack of corn and 1 pack of onion seeds, which means I need to plant these and then make more seeds out of them first. At about noon, the irrigation system was built a bit higher to avoid the issues we had been having of the plants growing so big that they blocked the dripping water and end up drying out, and the seeds were then planted at sundown. The morning footage wasn't recorded sadly of day 90, but here's what happened. I finally stumbled on the arrow relic, which I'm holding on to till day 100. I also got a wild idea to buy every hydrocoin based vehicle that I could, so I snagged a yellow hydro truck Mark II, as it reminds me of the yellow Tonka trucks that I used to play with as a kid, and a speedy quad that's perfect for food deliveries. Wait a minute, did I just become DoorDash? Unfortunately, I hit a mini progression lock. There were no new quests for me, nor new fish to catch, or urgent mining tasks to complete, so I ended up waiting for my veggies to grow. By sunset, I checked our core stone output again, and it seems to have slowed to a crawl. Is this stuff rarer than I thought? It looks like the final sprint to tier 3 might be a real nail biter. With 10 days left in the challenge, who knows if I'll finish everything on my checklist. On day 91, I went around looking at my accomplishments and put everything into overdrive as I needed more drills to hopefully get more core stone. I managed to make 2 more drills and got them hooked up at my base as quickly as I could because time is of the essence. But I wasn't just fighting against the clock, I was also fighting the absolute copious amount of lag that this contraption was producing. Making these drills had me using up all of my cloud room, by the way, so I was worried that I might not make enough back to eventually make tier 3 drills. By day's end, we officially had 6 tier 2 miners, completely doubling the tier 1 output. My PC was begging for mercy with all the flying ore, so I spent the rest of the evening hunting for random spots where resources might be jamming up the system, and the next morning, I did find a spot where my main harvester constantly had been getting its resources stuck. This means we haven't been getting the resources from the tier 2 drills. My whole life is a lie, so go ahead, laugh it up, folks. I deserve it. So I made some quick adjustments, releasing a tidal wave of stuck ore.
That was a workout.
And at about noon, after some restructuring, the facility was reactivated and everything started flowing like it should have been. We have officially unleashed the beast.
Okay, yeah, apparently that whole facility wasn't really working, and I was wondering what the heck was going on with Corestone being so slow. We were at like 311 weight of this stuff for multiple days, and now we just let it rip and we're at 387. I think we're going to be okay. I'm glad we caught that. I really, really am glad we caught that.
Not only did we fix the clog, we also probably saved my PC from imploding. As a bonus, my corn and onions were finally ripe too. Things were looking up. Through the night, I prepared a spot for tier 3 drills in case that dream should come to fruition. At dawn of day 93, I snatched up an advanced rake so I could shape the tier 3 area more precisely. I also grabbed conveyor belts, pipes, and anything that I could see myself needing for the next level rig. By the afternoon, I built a makeshift ore escalator and leveled the ground for the grand tier 3 drill zone. I wanted to get the ball rolling on day 94, so I started preparing ingots for a tier 3 harvester, and with them, headed to Icehelm to smash them together in the giant anvil, only to realize I hadn't even bought the designs yet. So I purchased all 3 designs in one go and forged the harvester, making me the proudest owner of tier 3 machinery. So I made my way back to base to hook it up as fast as possible. And as I placed it, it noticeably looks more modern than the other devices. Once we had it set up, the rest of the day was spent just preparing for when we could eventually make the drill. All I could do now was to wait for core stone and cloutium to accumulate, and to prepare the iron and gold weights for the special sword quest. After that, I prepared some more of my famous soups using some new vegetables, and made a delivery run with old Bessie. At night, I bought some more spanners for our automated repair machine, which honestly has been the MVP of this entire adventure. The entirety of day 96 was spent watching the ore flow, hoping to get enough for our goals. I also went around tidying up the base, putting things where they belong, and compressing the gems. While this was happening, I almost made my PC crash.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh. Uh-oh. This is not good. This is really not good. Oh, shit. Okay. Whew. We live.
By the end of the day, we had finally reached our goal weight for both the core stone and cloutium. I was a happy lad indeed, as on day 97 was the day to make my first and likely only tier 3 drill. I sprinted over to Icehelm, dropped my prepared ingots into the giant crucible, and pulled the lever. Isn't she beautiful? She was up and running in no time back at the Seaman factory, meaning I could cross off yet another of my endgame goals. The question that arose now, though, was to see if I could make the sword for the Royal Guard in time. I needed more core stone, so while I waited, I went on a quick vehicle shopping spree. Come evening, I swung by Hobson's Power Works for some cables, as I had something very, very, very special in mind for the end of this adventure. On day 98, all I could do was wait for more core stone to accumulate, and at long last, at about noon, I had accumulated 400 kilograms of core stone, which allowed me to make the special Royal Guard sword.
It is done. At long last, my magnum opus is complete. I will be king.
I raced it over to the castle and got a whopping 18,000 guild tokens in return. Now, if you don't mind me, I would like to see the king.
Well, the tokens are cool and all. I kind of would like to go up there, but I'm assuming you're the sole cause. You and your beaten broccoli shit that I can't go further up. And, yeah, what's funny enough is I don't even have enough of these frickin' farming tokens to even buy the seeds for these. Like, what do you want from me?
I took my coins with me and out of pure frustration decided to buy the Hydro Prospector vehicle. Then, to really flex on the royal family, I scooped up every dig site on the map. Time to see what sorts of chaos we could unleash. But first, most importantly, on day 99, I took the final relic to the cave, curious as to if anything would happen.
Well, here goes nothing. Oh, secrets of the cave. Oh, that was an achievement. Hello. Oh, booty, my favorite. Ha, it's a whole treasure chest just for me. I guess this is like a special decor piece for the base. That's nice. You know what? I'm kind of happy. I don't know how I'm gonna take this whole thing home, but I'm happy. That's nice.
The value of this chest is 68,000. I kind of wish it had 1,000 more, but we can't have everything in life, I guess. The rest of the day was spent unloading all of the valuables from our factory and sold it all for an unfathomably great amount of wealth, which I used to buy a lot of nukes. All of day 100 was spent building the greatest nuclear testing site this island had ever seen, and all of this was done over some shitty broccoli soup. And while I'm setting this up, I would like to thank our lovely patrons and YouTube channel members for their support every month. Supporting is never required, but always very appreciated, as it helps us improve the quality of our videos. So, sincerely, thank you very much. And now, without any further ado, let us head on over to some real fireworks.
My lovelies, we have gathered here this fine evening, not only to celebrate the end of the 100 days, but also to send a message. That's right, the nobles hiding away in their castle have denied me access to the royal chambers over some silly broccoli soup. To that I say to the nobility in power, thy message is clear. However, the last laugh will be mine, as I have amassed 1.5 million coins worth of nuclear armaments to send this filthy island back into the Stone Ages. So, meine Lieben, with Bessie as our witness, and without any further ado, let the fireworks begin! Yes! Let's go! Can I throw myself into it? Ah! But there it goes. The rumbles of war have begun. It keeps going too. The amount of nuclear radiation that this island is now going to go under is absolutely unfathomable. And I feel like the only place for refuge left for anyone on this island is to head on over to Volcano Island out in the distance. That right there, to my knowledge, everybody, is the DLC area, which I do possess. So, if you want me to make a great escape to greater and greener pastures, let me know in the comments if you want to see another 100 days where I take on that challenge as I flee the absolute hellscape that I've unleashed over here. So, without any further ado, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you very soon. So take care now. Bye-bye.